Everybody, I'm Mitzi Mead. Welcome to the session today. I'm with Sella Consulting. I'm also one of the IAC board members, but I am the co-chair of this session today. Unfortunately, my government co-chair, Emily Swarsky from VA, could not be here. She was ill, so I'm pinch hitting for her to get this started. What I did want to say is, once again, this is Why Did You Do That? Lifting the Veil on Decision Making. We have a two-part session today. We're going to have some government speakers, and then at that point, we are going to break off. They're going to come into the audience and be seated at tables, and then we're going to have a table discussion on a couple of topics that we'll reveal as we get on along. You actually have at your tables, you have notes. Somebody's going to be assigned to be a note taker at the table, and then on the topic. On topic 1 and then topic 2, somebody will be taking notes on that topic as well. Okay, so what I want to do is just start this off by introducing our moderator, Guy Torres. But before I do that, I did want to say after this session is over, it's really the end of the sessions, but there will be the networking event afterwards, and we hope you stay for that and join us for that. So, I'm very pleased to have Guy Torres here as our moderator. This is Guy, for those of you who don't know him. Guy is with DHS, he's with CBP. He is the Director of Information Technology Contracting. And as the Director of IT Contracting, he is responsible for managing the largest IT acquisition portfolio in DHS and currently leads a staff of 35 government and contractors. His division is responsible for executing purchasing actions that account for more than 40% of CBP's annual appropriated budget. He has successfully led the recompetition of CBP's 10 largest IT infrastructure contracts by implementing procurement best practices, which resulted in more than $100 million in negotiated contract savings for CBP. He himself is is certified level 3 in contracting, level 3 in project and program management, and PMP certified. He has a Master's of Science in Acquisition and Contracts Management from the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School and an MBA, also an MBA. He's a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, and something dear to my heart, he is a former Marine Semper Fi guy. He is a graduate of the Harvard Kennedy School Executive Fellows Program, and also something near and dear to my heart, he's a 2011 IAC partner, so he's an IAC fellow. So I'm going to turn it over to Guy, but let me see if we've got, is there a table lead at all could the government table lead raise your hand at the tables? So we've got these guys, okay. We're right here. We don't have a table lead. Oh, okay, so we need one table lead for here. So if somebody could shift, they're going to 1 and 2. Okay. So we've got, and for the people who just came in, if you could be seated at a table with a number, that would be great. Okay, turn it over to Guy. Let me get this.
Great. Thank you for those kind words, Mitzi. So good afternoon, folks. I know it's a tough time of the afternoon. It's last meeting before happy hour, itching to get out of here. Some of you haven't had enough coffee for the day, so you're drooping here. So I'm going to do my best to keep things lively for the next 45 to 50 minutes. Industry-government collaboration is extremely important, and I can tell you, as a contracting officer and a supervisor of contracting officers, we have realized that the most efficient way for us to do our job is if we continue to do communication with industry upfront and early and as much as possible. I know there's been, in the past, we've had challenges in terms of a culture that is risk averse in terms of meeting with industry, and at times it tends to retard our ability to move forward in terms of being more efficient, in terms of defining acquisition strategies and collaborating with industry to get the best products and best deliverables that are going to be objectively defined. So I think most of you here have been affiliated with ACT-IAC. I was fortunate 3 years ago when I came to CBP to get involved with ACT-IAC. I went to the Partners Program, as Mitzi mentioned, and I got to tell you that these types of organizations have opened my eyes to the need to work hand in glove with industry when we can. And I mean, that's when we're developing a requirement, looking for ideas on how to structure CLINs that for really IT requirements that are sort of complex. So we're really it helped me immensely to get a good perspective of that and to really get a better appreciation from the industry side on things that we do in the government that we may not necessarily think is a bad thing, but when you hear from industry, like, oh my God, why are you doing that? Why are you not talking to us? Why are you doing written debriefings as opposed to oral debriefings? Things like that that are very sensitive to industry may not necessarily resonate with some of the folks on our end. So it's been a great transition for me to be involved with ACT-IAC and to have the ability to work very closely with many of you out here on the tables here. So I want the agenda for the next hour is going to be, I'm going to introduce two gentlemen to my left. They are Acquisition Excellence awardees from last year. My intent is to share their bios with them, and they're getting an opportunity to talk about why they won their award last year. After that, as Mitch just said, I'm going to roll into asking the myth questions. There's two questions. The first question I will ask, and then each table will have about 20 minutes to come up with, discuss the topics. I'll be walking around and be catching some of you off guard, asking for your opinions. So please try to stay awake, because if I see you snoozing, I'm going to come up to you with a mic and go, hey. And after the first session, I will have the table lead rotate to a different table, and I will follow up with the last myth question. And the same thing, 20 minutes. I'll give you 5-minute warning, and tell you to wrap things up, and then I will get the consensus for everyone, provide those updates and consensus to the teams here, and I call it the table teams, and then get you out here to do a little networking, a little drinking. So that's how we're going to roll for the next 45, 50 minutes? 75? Okay, I'll push it that much, okay? All right, great. So at this time, I do want to introduce David Sella. He spent 25 years in the Coast Guard, and he retired as an 06 in 2007. He holds a master's degree in mathematics, a master's degree in industrial engineering, and a master's certificate in project management. David has worked at the VA since 1995 and came to the Acquisition Academy as a program manager in 2010. David is the program manager for the Warriors for Workforce program, which has just launched its third cohort of interns in February 2014. Very nice. Yeah. To his right is Steve Spoutz. Steve Spoutz is the director of the Acquisition Center of Excellence at the NRO, National Reconnaissance Office on Chantilly, Virginia. In his position, he's responsible for the guidance and oversight of the acquisition, consulting, and the conduct of source selection for competitive contract activities for NRO acquisitions, as well as similar contract activities within the intelligence community and DoD. Mr. Spoutz began his career as an officer in the United States Air Force, aim high, so to speak, and has held various acquisition positions within the Air Force. So at this time, Dave, could you share with our friends here your award, why you won the award, and the significance?
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Guy. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me first ask, are there any veterans in the group? A few? Thank you very much for your service. Every day I get to work with veterans, and it's an honor and a pleasure for me to do so. I think we won the award. It's obviously we didn't win it for my good looks, but we have a great team of folks who are dedicated to helping veterans. We won the Innovation Award, I think, because we have taken an innovative approach to training and transitioning wounded veterans. We hire and train service-connected disabled veterans with a high school diploma and put them onto a career path to a professional career in acquisitions. We take a different approach with a holistic training, and so it's not just check the box, just technical training. We try to cover the whole gamut of the different things for interpersonal skills, communication skills, all kinds of professional skills that you know are necessary every day. We hire and train them, and then we place them within the VA. So we cover all components of that. There's a lot of programs out there that will train them and then try to find them a job, or will hire them after they're trained, but we offer the whole package. We offer 3 main components to the program. One is academics. As you know, there's an academic requirement in 1102 field. So during that first year, the transition year, They go to school. Part of their workday is to get those 24 business credits. We've partnered up with an MOU with a local university who comes to our site, and they get 2 hours of classroom time every single day. So they're going through the classes as a cohort. They take 36 college credits in 10 months. And the very first cohort, jumping ahead to some of our results, they achieved a GPA I think that you would be amazed at. I think if I were to ask you one-on-one what you might expect for folks who went into the military for many reasons but didn't go to college, what you might expect that GPA to be. This is folks who have these handicaps in terms of the disabilities, and handicaps is not the right word because I tell them day one, I don't care what their disability is, they are able, 100% able to do this. What would you might say would be a good GPA, even for your kids? 3.0 would be good, right? 3.7 they got. And part of that is because our second component, we offer peak performance training. Now, I don't know of any other program that offers this training. Sports figures, athletes, high-level athletes do it, Olympic athletes do it, CEOs do this. But to learn to operate at peak performance using biofeedback techniques and some of the cutting-edge brain research to help them, everything from breathing better, synchronizing their heart rate to their breathing. They learn to do that, but they also learn to ease up on their stress. They also have biofeedback in terms of brain waves. So we coach them one-on-one. We work with them one-on-one so that they have better attention, better focus. And everybody knows that contracting is not a high-stress job. So, and obviously we do know that it is. And so we want them to be prepared for that as well. So we coach them through that first year and transition them into the workplace. The third main component is professional development training. So all the little things, even from stuff like just understanding some of the terminology in acquisitions to get them ready for that first con class, which they'll start in the second year, to interpersonal skills, even computer skills. We get them ready through soft skill training, online training, classroom training. We had a business development or a business professionalism class the other day. How to dress in the workplace. Military culture, as some of you know, is different than the workplace culture, right? So we want to get them ready for that too, so that when they go out on their first job rotation in their second year where they get on-the-job training, they fit right in. They know what to expect. When they hit the ground running. They have the technical training and that other training as well. So I think that's why we did that. We also find that there is a power in the cohort. The military folks are used to working as a team. And these young men and women, they come in, they have the discipline, they have the drive, they have the desire to continue to serve fellow veterans, to serve their nation, and they find that here. They have the ability to adapt and overcome, to learn and think on their feet, because that's what they had to do out in the field. And they are able to bring that to the table. So we find that we're just building onto that basis that they bring to the table. Have I hit 5 minutes yet, Guy? Am I getting the cut?
5.5, that's great.
5.5, okay. So if anybody wants to talk about this, obviously I can bore you to tears and talk to you for hours about this. But I think that's why we won the program, because we're doing something a little bit different. We're taking the time to transition them, and there's a lot of pieces to that. We've had a lot of significant results, positive results. People, when they go out to the field, we're already hearing, because they're ending, this first group is ending their third year, and they'll graduate this fall. 85% already have a place to go. 85% have already been offered a job, which we knew would happen. I just didn't expect it to happen this quick. We're hearing positive results. Nobody else that we've ever seen has communicated so well. Would you clone this guy for me? They're out there, they're doing the job, it's showing results, and I think that's why we got it.
Phenomenal. Take care.
Thank
you. Nice work here. Steve, you're next.
So am I live? Okay, so I'm shocked that no one else has already said this, but they're taping this, so if anybody knows what a camera does to you, it has added 10 pounds to me already. So I don't look like this. I'm usually a little bit thinner. Listen, we won the award, and I'm just lucky to have the job that I have. I run what we call the ACE out at the NRO. The ACE, though, as I've learned since I took the job about 3 years ago, everybody's got an ACE, and they all do slightly different things. So I'll explain just real quickly a little bit about what ours is. 3 different pillars, essentially. associated with our ACE. The first pillar has to do with our training and education. We do all of the acquisition training for the National Reconnaissance Office workforce and some of the intelligence community workforce, but all of the acquisition training. And that goes, and it's about, we service about 4,000 students a year just in our training element. The other piece that I do, and it's probably a job in and of itself, is we essentially run the business portal or FedBiz Ops for classified acquisitions. So that falls underneath me, but anything that is classified within the intelligence community, and when I say the intelligence community and those that we service, they usually talk about the big five in the intelligence community. If you don't, anybody familiar with the intel community? Okay, the NRO. Okay, so. So we service for the big five for the most part. The NRO, NGA, DIA, and then the CIA. For the most part, those most acquisitions that they do in a competitive way are broadcast over our network, and then what you'll find is that the third element of what we do, aside from doing the training and education, and then the running the portal, and there are about 5 different separate networks that I'm responsible for within the facility. But then we run all the source selections in the facility that I run. So at any one time, there are about 40 different source selections going on in our facility. My staff facilitates those source selections, and we facilitate the source selections, but we catch those source selections and those acquisition efforts all the way from the RFI, all the way through the solicitation going out, the final RFP, and then the actual source selection takes place in our facility. So I say 3 pillars. There's this big one that's called the facility management, which wasn't even a part of my job, but tends to be what I spend right now, about 30-40% of my time. Snow days are a real problem for me. So a couple other things so that's the organization that I run. The couple of things that I want to tell you why we won the award. It wasn't me. This Acquisition Center of Excellence was set up about 15 years ago. And I got an award, or we received the award for what we do just every day, and we've been doing for 15 years. And when I come and I hear the speeches about you should be interacting from the RFI all the way through the draft RFP and up to the RFP with industry, we do that as a matter of practice. That's just what we do. From the time the RFP, we work on the RFP, and RFP doesn't go out from the NRO unless I've looked at it and made sure that we have interacted with industry. We ask about business arrangements, what we can do early and up front to increase the competition, all the way through where we'll drop the draft RFP, hold an industry day, conduct one-on-ones, and this is, we've tried, there are a couple that have tried to go through without doing their one-on-ones, but we just, as a matter of practice, we just hold our one-on-ones, and then we get a lot of feedback. Finally, we'll drop the RFP, but we are with industry all the way through that process, and it just hurts my head that not everyone is. So I will share with you what I know, but again, to me, it's just the way you do business, and it's very effective. Things that we're working on, I will tell you, I am working a little bit harder on trying to look for standardization, not too much because I realize every source selection is different, but standardization mostly in reducing what we ask for. What I see are these volumes of books come in that we don't ever look at, and we've got to stop asking for that because it's costing you time and money, industry, and it's costing us just headaches to try to dig through it and make sure that we looked at it. So if there's something that we are focused on, my boss, Deb Scheider, the acquisition executive out at the NRO, and myself, we are singularly focused on trying to draw down what we're asking for to make sure it's only what we need. And then the other thing that we are really exploring, and much to the chagrin of our, I think some of our industry partners, we are looking at LPTA where it makes sense. And again, it's limited, and we realize that, but we're about to float something out. Anybody who's watching, some of our business things, you may see an LPTA come out that's a little bit different than what we normally do. So we're going to see how it goes, see if we get what we want. But I'll tell you, spending time to understand what you truly want up front is really the hard part. And do I have? Oh, he's gonna Kill me. Oh, I got so listen, I will share with you over there as much as I possibly can. I thought we had 3 hours.
I'm looking around, and people are starting to do this.
Okay, got it. Got
so,
it.
Steve, thank you so
All
much.
right, thanks.
You did bring up a good topic of LPTA, and I know it's a sensitive topic with industry as well as with in government. LPTA with services is frowned upon. I agree. I tend to, unless you're buying janitorial services, generally I would say IT services should be best value. You're buying IT commodities and they're well defined. LPTA, it makes sense. Now, with that said, I also feel we can be open if we have our program managers and program officers that define requirements, clearly define what LPTA is, so it's objective, clearly objective, then I think there is hope. But in many cases, I would say when you have complex IT services, hey, LPTA. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm not trying to but it's my thoughts. Yeah.
IT, so that was good.
So thank you, folks. We're getting ready here. We're going to time to raise the roof. I see some people getting a little tired. We're going to get it up now. What do you think, guys? We going? Come on, huh? All right. All right. That's it. Here we go. All right. All right, here we go, folks. Okay, question number 1. Tables, get your pencils and pens ready to go. Uh-oh, take that break. I got a break now. What do you want?
I just wanted to take a look to make sure we had, because we've got some tables with only a few people, and the conversation just won't be as good. So
You sure?
I kind of think, if you think we should consolidate a little bit, or is everybody okay with the tables? We can consolidate. We got people that aren't sitting at numbered tables. If we could get you guys to go join a numbered table. There's some over here with just a few. Let me get you guys. Yeah.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
All
Great,
right.
that's better. That's good. They're going to consolidate. Great.
Are we consolidating? Excellent, excellent. Now, lady in the back over there was wearing that hat and is a little cold. I'm going to get you warmed up right now, okay? We're going to move around, have some fun, okay? So, great. Okay, folks, as you can see, the session table leads. Right there, I want to thank everyone for the table leads for staying here and being part of this, so thank you very much. So, time is on the clock, 20 minutes, right, Mitzi? Okay, topic number 1. The myth still exists. How to effectively communicate prior to an RFP release. Go. Repeat it again. How to effectively communicate prior to an RFP release.
Let me just make sure they're taking notes. And hopefully somebody's taking notes from each table. There's the little notepad, so if somebody can take notes, just leave them at the end of the topic and we'll pick them up.
Time is up, folks. Let's wrap it up. I'm starting to walk around. I'm going to close my eyes and pick on table 3. Table 3. Could you provide me and the rest of the folks here your top 2 or 3 responses?
Sure. So we put our one industry rep on the hook to give us some information on kind of what kind of information does industry want. One was really kind of understanding an agency and their culture. Her point was that you can read all you want about an agency, but really kind of being there and meeting with the people is incredibly helpful. And our other 2 points kind of fell into really it could be prior to an RFP or in an RFP, but accurate data and really understanding the problems and pain points. So if there's been past performance issues, it really helps. So
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Table 2.
Okay, we had conversations and we came up with closed doors, one-on-ones to try to communicate with the contracting government so we could have that private time where we could communicate effectively with both. We also looked at industry days, of which we all do, I'm sure, and that's so we can have the same communication with each other. And the other thing was task force and questions and answers of what we need to do better or how we can improve to be more effective.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lucky 13. Bob, you want to talk?
We basically learned that nothing works. The government has their head up their butt. Industry doesn't want to talk to us. Nothing is going to solve the system until we get rid of Congress.
Okay, thank you so much, Bob. Our beloved industry liaison officer at DHS. That's my guy. All right, 3 down, 3 to go. Why 3 more? Because the remaining 5 will be asked question number 2 in about 20 minutes. So, number 1, Ms. Sela, I know your husband a little bit here.
Thank you.
Just share something.
Wow, I get to follow that. Okay. Well, we did talk about sort of the conversation and due diligence and how important that is. But one of the things we talked about at our table is that although we all agreed, it's hard to convince some other people in your agency that the investment of the time up front in that is worth it. So it's pay me now or pay me later, but it's really hard to convince a lot of people sometimes that payment's worth it. We also talked to Elliot and the other group talked a little bit about sort of letting industry know about the budget, what we have to work within, because that's a reality. We have budget limitations across the government, so we talked about the value of that. Then we also talked about innovation. We asked for innovation, but we have a lot of technical evaluation teams that are really struggling with how to evaluate that innovation. So we've got that we discussed as well. Real culture change within the government and even industry. A lot of this is the way we've always done it, so why not just continue that way? And then I think that's pretty much the summary.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. Am I and my friend from OFPP? Table 10.
Thank you. So we took a little more of a positive spin, Bob. We talked about a really good experience that these folks had with the agency in regard to vendor engagement. So a couple of the things that fit into that an agency has a process to request meetings, and they always say yes. You may have to wait a little bit, but they say yes. Recurring industry days that you can count on. Keep the acquisition update up to date. So if you start out 24 months, update it in 6 more months, let people know where it stands. One-on-one meetings are great. Multiple step acquisitions allowing for feedback in different steps of the process. Don't skip the award date. People get let go because of that. Your neighbors, your colleagues. More visibility into where it is in the process. So, it's in legal, and the next step is to go to whatever. But all of that helped.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Okay, one more. Table 12. Who is the table leader? Who's going to speak here? You want the mic? Yes, no? Yes, no?
We're both going to talk. I'll talk next.
Some of the challenges that the table talked about was understanding boundaries and to the fullest, and doing the typical methods that you think that government should do is go ahead and do the RFI, issue the draft release before the final RFP, have the industry fairs and the open discussions. Some of the contracts that the RFPs that they see are coming out aren't truly or not performance-based. They're telling you what to do rather than asking you for that solution. The government can improve through communication that way. They find it clearer requirements are needed, period of performance dates, things like that. They would like to get communication with the government and find out more details about the solicitation. Let's see. There's an industry forecast that government and industry can share and utilize together, and also get info of what the government's mission really is and how the industry can better understand that and help with our challenges and our constraints to make the government better in general in our solicitations. And I'm going to ask you to speak about the comic, Amber Gray to talk about the comic collector.
Well, one of the things in which we recommended was actually having like a comment collector for industry and just the public in general to provide feedback as far as requirements prior to the RFP. And we found that to be helpful as well, and perhaps maybe even a SUE or a statement of work and attachment. So.
Table 12, way to go, double duo. Excellent, excellent. Okay. Okay, folks, thank you so much. We have one more myth question. And that question is the following. How does talking about the acquisition strategy lead to better outcomes? Explore the impact that undefined acquisition strategies have on industry, bid or no bid decisions. Time on the clock is 15 minutes. Please start. Oh, one more thing. I apologize. Table lead. Oh. Whoa. We'll keep that on. Okay. All right. We'll keep it up there. I'll use my watch. 15 minutes. Okay. Table lead. Stay at your tables. Okay. No reason to move. Okay. Thank you. Pens down, pens down, pens down. Here we go. Okay, folks, you can simmer it down. I'm going to have this table speak, so please be courteous and give them your undivided attention. Hold on a second. Hi.
Shut up.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yes. Very nicely, thank you. Hey, so, who's talking on this end?
Thanks. I've wanted to tell her that for the last half an hour. I appreciate. No, I'm just kidding. I was a joke. Please. Anyway, this was a very tough subject at this table, and but a lot of great dialogue. Industry is very frustrated about not having enough time in the acquisition process to formulate their teams, to really put together a strong strategy to go after a particular requirement. So what they're just asking is that government communicates earlier and more often. There aren't really a lot of standards that have to, like for instance, in an RFI environment, like there aren't really a lot of standards of what you have to do after an RFI is released in terms of communicating back to the vendors that submit to an RFI. And that was a big issue here because not that vendors necessarily count on that business coming, but it does raise their rabbit ears up a bit. It does pique their interest. And, once that strategy is formulated, and in many circumstances, it's not communicated back to the vendor. In other words, if an RFI went out on FedBizOps and 5 months later, the CO decides that, we've identified 6 vendors off a schedule, and we're just going to, submit the RFQ, RFP directly to them. That information is not communicated back to the vendors that provided the RFI, that responded to the RFI via FedBizOps. So that was a prevailing theme, and I agree with them that it isn't really, it's more or less of a common courtesy thing that you try and get back to those people and say, here's what ended up happening, thanks for your response. I'm not really guilty of personally myself, but as contracting person, I'm sorry. But no, it's just, but.
6 women.
But no, I mean, it's a lot of good dialogue. Yeah.
You got him to apologize.
So anyway, but no, great dialogue, and I mean, I couldn't agree with them more. That the government does need to do a better job of communicating more openly with industry when possible, especially when they take the time to respond to an RFI or, a draft RFP or a draft RFQ. I mean, I think that's where contracting is lacking. So.
All right, thank you. Good points. Heard them before, yes. Okay, table 8. You getting a drink? Can you get a strong one for me too? All right, Ms. Perlia, I know you are more than willing to talk about this sensitive topic. So, without further ado, here you go.
You're so right. This is my favorite subject. I could talk for hours about it. Well, where was John earlier? Yeah, I'll talk to you for 3 hours on this. So I think the consensus at our table was 3 major things, is that planning. It's all about where the company needs to plan their resources, and they base planning those resources on their probability of win. And so if there's not enough information, or there is a perception by industry that it is, quote, wired, then we are not going to put forth those resources, and in turn, perhaps the government isn't receiving the best responses that they could be receiving. And so the communication, it sounds like, needs to go both ways. That industry needs to better understand what the government is trying to acquire, and that we need to understand what vehicle is going to be used, because that changes the entire bid model. You have to scramble at the last minute. It doesn't matter what vehicle you choose, you just have to tell us, because once you change that, teams have been made, contracts have to be canceled, teaming arrangements, work share agreements. It's the worst thing to have to go to your partner and say, gee, I'm sorry, John, I can't work with you on this job anymore because you're not a prime. So it's tough.
I got to point out, I've had this discussion with Kim repeatedly, and to a point where I've actually, 2 years ago, at the end of the fiscal year, I invited her to come speak to my staff and select program managers within the Office of Information Technology, CBP. We went to an offsite, and we talked about communication. We talked about perception. The theme I wanted today was perception. What does the government think about industry? What's industry think about us? And the underlying theme was communication. But when do we talk? When can you talk? And I have to applaud Kim for really giving a good understanding and a solid understanding to my staff in terms of when you can and cannot talk and when it's okay. And she had credibility because she's been on the government side before, so she was able to say, look, I've been there, done that. Look, this is what you cannot do. This is what Guy and I do when we're looking at strategies, or I have an idea for how a certain strategy should turn, and he goes, no, you can't do it this way for the following reasons. And we had that dialogue. And I think we were able to at least share it with some of the young 1102s in my staff that, hey, it's okay to talk to them. It's okay that, that they can come to us as a partner in many cases to help us get more efficient, get better product, better services, and provide what's best for the agency. So, thank you. All right. Mr. Mike Smith.
Okay.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Okay. Who is speaking for you today?
Okay, so initially I was really confused with the question, because how could you have an RFP release without an acquisition strategy? Then I understood that the RFP was released without communicating the acquisition strategy prior to the release. Okay, I understand that now. What we did this talk about was the whole thing that everybody else has talked about, releasing information as soon as possible, updating that information periodically, whether it's every 2 weeks, every 30 days, at some point throughout the cycle, prior to putting out the RFP. But here's the other thing. As a program manager, managing acquisition programs, and talking to contracting officers across DHS, we try to push the idea of releasing draft information, releasing RFIs, communicating where you're going. This is what we're thinking now. But in doing that, you always run the risk that as your acquisition moves through the review cycle, as your acquisition moves through the different wickets, that somebody's going to say, no, you can't use that vehicle, you have to use this vehicle. No, you can't do that, you have to set it aside. So when it does change, and it will, we don't want to hear a lot of complaining from industry that it changed. Understand that we communicated early because we want you to start putting together teams and start working on the strategy that you're going to approach this acquisition with. But we don't have ultimate control, as a contracting officer does not have ultimate control over the way the thing goes out. So just know that sometimes it changes due to things outside the CO's control. And we also understand that for impacts, sometimes you're going to diminish competition if you drop it without advising of the acquisition strategy in advance. We know that the industry teams may not be optimal if you don't give the industry enough time to put together the right teams. We understand there's probably going to be a price buffer because to take up for the risk. And then there's going to be certain other issues that you're going to come into with set-aside, switch and set-aside teams, and I think that was communicated earlier when you have to change team members.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mike. Great points. Okay. Brian? Sir. How are you?
Doing well, and you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Would you like to speak for a little while?
Oh, sure.
Sure. There you go.
I love a microphone. So actually, I'd be lying if I said our table didn't cover a lot of the same ground that's already been articulated, and I won't keep you from that first cold beer by running over that same territory. I think one of the positive outcomes, though, of stepping through the challenges, especially from an industry perspective, which is the side of the equation that I'm on, of what's already been said about why it's difficult and why we need a little bit of lead time to get the solutions right for the government. And I think Michael and Kimberly both kind of covered that already. One of the positive things that we heard back from the government representatives at our table is it would be helpful to maybe get some suggestions on how to put some boundaries around that conversation in the lead up. So, even pre-RFI, when should we start having those conversations? When can you start giving us some indicators so that when you have an industry day that's supposed to be about gathering really cool ideas about technical solutions, 17 different people don't stand up and say, yeah, so when's the RFP going to drop? What vehicle are you going to use? And asking those annoying things, right, that are a turn off to the other side. So we've got some homework, I know. The industry folks at our table will have some homework to follow up with our government friends here and give them some ideas around that. And I think that's what this is all about, right? So.
Great points, Brian. Great points, Brian. Thank you. All right. Last but certainly not least, number 5. Joanne, here you go.
Hi, I'm Joanne Wojtek. So, as was just stated, we've pretty much had the same comments. To go with the pre-RFI statement, one of our last comments was about the fact that it's harder to get industry involved before you know what you want, because industry isn't going to be ready, and they're already doing other things. You're mostly going to go after the RFPs that are out there, because if we're just at the discussion stage, it's a little more difficult to get industry interested in talking to us. So that's something that we need to work on, is how, if you want it sooner, well, we need to have conversations sooner. How is industry going to put money where they don't even know if there's ever going to be an RFP? And then taking my own, I guess I'll take the table lead priority of things we didn't talk about, but I'll mention that about having wired RFPs. I hear that all the time, but I don't see it all the time. Industry seems to think it happens all the time, and I think that is, it's not that government wires things, it's that the other piece of it is we run out of time. I mean, the way Congress works, the way budgeting works, the way our requirements work, all of a sudden we have to get something done, and we're just trying to get it done, and we need help with that. We don't really want to wire it. In fact, one of the points made was a situation where they had, I forget how many it was initially, but 16 or so people interested. They thought they were going to get a lot of bids. They ended up with one. They weren't happy with only one. They actually wanted to have that competition. And I think I see that a lot from our customers saying, why am I only getting one response? I want more. So I think it's a falsehood to think that government only wants one and wants to wire it. We want that competition. We want those extra bids.
Excellent. Great conversation. Excellent. You know, as we wrap things up here, I heard the term wired. I've heard this before, and in many cases, we're talking to industry, and I think I'm going to share something with all of you that I think is obvious, but no one really says it many times. And is anyone from the press here? Okay. Well, anyway, okay. So I'll just tone down what I'm going to say. See, in many cases, if we do a recompete and there's an incumbent that's doing the work, and the incumbent's doing a good job, the program office likes it. I don't say it's necessarily wired, but you have to let's look at the business strategy. If an incumbent's doing a good job, yeah, that's probably going to be your competition, right? And I think all of us know that. And I'm not saying it's wired, it's that the requirement will go back to that vendor, but that's something to think about. And when we look at strategic sourcing, and Mike and I talked about this at length, strategic sourcing is a good point as well as a sore point for many people in industry, because in the past, it was mandatory for consideration. Now it's mandatory for use. And I hear industry going, well, if I knew this was going to be mandatory for use, I would have put my best foot effort into this, and I would have made sure I was on the team. Well, these are decisions that have been made at a very high level, and we feel that in many cases, and you've heard this morning with the number of savings we've seen with strategic sourcing, but at the same time, there's also some cases where we have a unique requirement where there may need to be a waiver, and that waiver needs to be justified and documented. And it has happened in the past where I've had to talk with Mike, say, look, Mike, this one is critically mission essential. Here's the documentation. Here's the consequences if we do not go this route. So we've had that occasion where we've been able to get away or go a different route with a waiver for to not go strategic sourcing. But again, I think it's I'm an advocate of it. I'm a fan of it. I'm pushing it through CBP, and many of you will see a number of requirements are going to be coming out very shortly here on Eagle 2, small business, functional category 2. You might see Eagle 2, unrestricted. You may see tabs. There's a lot of requirements we're going to start seeing coming down now because the money is finally, although we've got a budget, the money's finally coming down. We're starting to get money that's coming into the components, and now we're starting to see those requirements starting to be defined. So sorry for carrying on like this. I apologize, Joanne, but I picked up on the wired thing, and I wanted just to come full circle with that. So I want to take this opportunity because I know it's getting late, and we got to get to the drinks here soon, but I wanted to thank the table leads again for coming out and being absolutely wonderful, helping us out. I want to thank Dave and I want to thank Steve. Congratulations again for providing the information on the awards that you won last year. And I want to thank everyone I want to thank Jim Williams as well and Mitzi Mead for helping sponsor this lovely event. So thank you very much, folks.
And we want to thank Guy he was a great moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you.